Hello everyone and welcome to the next Metro monthly update video. This is the monthly update for February of
Correct.
2023. And my name as always is Derek Boyd. I'm the chairman and CEO and this is
I'm the president and secretary of Metro, Vladimir Stakov. So we don't really have a lot of wrap up to do for January. We have a huge wrap up for you guys from December till now.
well, maybe even November.
Well, yeah, maybe even November. So let's go ahead and get into it. So good news is we actually did end up getting somebody interested in 130 by surprise. We weren't really advertising except on our website. So we did get somebody that was interested in going ahead and doing the rent to own program with 130. They understood the situation, that the power had been stolen and siphoned by the previous people, that obviously they needed to pull permits, the house wasn't livable. They had a down payment but decided not to use it. They said instead they'd rather put that towards repairs. We totally understood, so we actually signed off with them. So that's good. 130 is now producing. Then we got an interesting one. The stepson of 134 reached out to us saying that he was interested in renting 136 from us, and but he wanted to do it as a rental. So we told him, hey, we'll definitely try to make that work. Told him to go ahead and start the process to pull the power permit and whatnot. We would cover it all. We get it up to par if it was within reason and rent it from him. So he's on a quasi rental agreement with us. Basically, if we can't, if we don't feel like we can get the power on, then we're going to refund him his money. But if we can get the power on, then he's a true renter from that point on. We'll handle the repairs and maintenance and everything else like that, which obviously is great for us, great for him. Everybody benefits in that situation. So we were more than happy to do that. Do you have anything else to add on those two?
Nope, just hopefully we can get the power figured out. I've already started the permit process for one. We started 130 October, I think, of last year. So that one's already been started and it's good for a year. They just have to finalize it. And they have had made some strides. They're starting to put a deck in place right now that's already needed. And they got the conduit redone for where the power pole is outside, running it into the inside breaker. So they have made progress there. Now, as far as 136 goes, I did start that permit process on Friday. They didn't give me a confirmed time yet, but the inspection is supposed to be potentially by Tuesday, which is then when we'll know whether or not they will pass code or if they're going to have to do some new stuff to get code up to date. So we'll find out with them here soon. In the next video, I'll let you know.
Yep. On to the next thing. This was actually really disappointing for us. We ended up with a $2,700 water bill for the months of December to like middle-ish of February. Here's the reason it's so disappointing. We're not entirely sure what the problem is. We thought we fixed all the water leaks. We thought we took care of everything. We thought we shut everything off that wasn't currently being utilized or whatever else. But apparently there might be another water leak either in the actual main line leading to all of these different units, or there could be a potential water leak at 108. Because while we did a little spot check, we didn't really thoroughly investigate. We're not sure. 108 has told us that there hasn't really been any kind of issues or whatever else. Although we did have to replace his hot water heater because it's supposedly
and his
busted.
roof started leaking again.
Yeah.
After the remodel that we did back in August, when
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, July actually is when they first came out. Then it was another time they came out in August. And in that roughly 5 to 6 months since then, they've had to do it again. They just did it again like last week, and supposedly it's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've had to do the same fix 3 times.
But that's just an annoyance. But the problem is that either we really did use that much water in that short amount of time, because the problem with our water company, unlike every other water company Derek and I have ever used in our entire life, usually they're able to tell you daily usage. They can give you a general idea. For this day, you used this many gallons. This day, you used this many. So you could see where the big number is and where the problem is. And you can see, okay, well, obviously a leak started there. And then you can see if it like worked its way back down or not. Ours just gives it the total, and that's it. And if you want to get somebody out there to inspect it, you have to pay like $50.
So the last time we ran into this issue, which was exactly a year ago when we did that one big repair in 13 hours or so, well, we were trying to find out if what we did was enough. So we were like, okay, well, there was this many leaks prior to, we did the fix, is it good now? And I remember I called in and they were like, well, we can tell you what it is from bill to bill. And I'm like, well, that's useless. I can look at that myself when I physically get the bill. I was like, can you not just tell me like what is going through per day? And they said, we can't really give you a daily reading. The only way we can do that is we'd have to send somebody out there to physically read the meter. And if we do that, that would be like a $50 inspection charge. And I'm like, so You can't just tell me like how much is currently flowing out at the moment. She said, no. The only thing we have is like throughout the neighborhood, we have like certain stops where we know how much water is flowing through to see if there's leaks in between different like, chunks where it splits off between different cities and different neighborhoods and all that little jazz. But they didn't have anything for individual meters except for the meter itself that has to be read. I'm like, so we won't know until we get the bill. And they're like, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only way we can really tell you. So luckily when we got that bill, it worked. So this particular case, we're in the same boat where we don't know if we fixed everything because $2,000 something for roughly 3 days of actual like leaking seems a bit excessive considering we had $2,000 for months of leaking prior to.
Mhm.
And so that's why we're thinking, I don't know if it's just because of how bad it was.
Like it could have been that all these units are just spewing so much pressurized water over the course of time that him and I didn't go out there because there was about a good day or 3, we're not entirely sure, period, of water just spewing nonstop. So we don't know if it's because it was that bad or if there's another leak somewhere else. And the water company is useless at actually helping us identify it. This might be one of those situations we might have to call out a plumber, not necessarily to do the job, but to literally find the leak for us if we can't identify when we go back out there on a dry day to try to see if we can find wet spots or whatever else. So we'll update that in March video once we get a better confirmation, because obviously this is something that needs to be rectified like ASAP now.
Because that's a huge difference in a bill again.
And obviously it's a huge chunk out of our income that we can then use towards putting something else, wasting it on water. I'd rather pay a plumber $2,000 to have it done right then and there and it be over with and it's no longer a problem than to pay the water company $2,000 every 2 months. So well, that's pretty much everything there, and surprisingly that's everything for all of February. Now we are finally ready to talk to you guys about the biggin, the whale, the thing we've been working on since December 9th of 2022. A little bit earlier in November, we went out and we actually inspected it and stuff like that, had a few phone conversations, but really what was hammered out and what was done. We were going to buy a motel, and we really did not want to talk about this deal until we had everything finalized in paper, everything signed off on, and we were starting the process of actually buying the motel. Because if it fell through from there, well, we could still talk about all the processes that happened, or if it never came through, it never came through. The problem is, the reason we're talking about this deal that was never signed on paper, by the way, is because it took up so much of our damn time from December until middle of February that it has to be talked about, because so much time of our time was put into dealing with this deal. Let me give you guys the basics. What we sat down with the owners of the motel on December 9th of 2022. We had agreed to do owner finance on the motel for $45,000 down, about $2,500 a month, for a total price of $280,000 total. This is way more than what that motel is actually worth in its as-is condition. Because the thing is, there are units in there that don't have proper heat, which is obviously illegal. There are units that have cockroaches, like the little German ones, which if anybody has ever dealt with them, if you see 1, 2, or 3, there's probably a couple hundred behind the walls or whatever else. There are units that are just completely ransacked in there, that have mold. Have mold.
No smoke detectors in a couple.
Yep, no smoke detectors in them, which is legally required in a motel like that.
Some didn't even have dressers, some didn't have TVs, some didn't have basic amenities.
Some had a big fridge, some had a tiny fridge, some had no fridge.
It was completely inconsistent throughout each unit.
It was literally the mobile home park in motel form. It was in huge disrepair, not really ready to be operational and running, but was still just skirting by.
And the best part of all of it is that the way it was being ran was that you didn't just go into the main office. So like a typical motel setup or a hotel, you walk into the front room, the office room, and then you just kind of talk with a clerk at a desk, you get your room key and you go to your room, right? No, in this particular case, the actual office area was basically used as storage, and it was pretty much unrepaired as well in some regard, because we didn't even get to go in there. They said something about the bathroom, there was a flood in there at one point, and so they hadn't been utilizing it. And so what they did is they instead just put a notice on the door, and this lady was using her personal phone number as the way to contact.
Not the owners.
Not the owners. They just random woman who was sort of working there under the table, but also kind of like living there because she also had like no place to stay. So it was like a weird, like, you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of thing. So anyway, so basically she was running the entire business 24 hours a day because you would have to physically call her cell phone, and then she would, if she wasn't already at the property, because she also did some landscaping business or something, she had to drive down to meet you, take payments only in cash. Because
they could not accept anything
else.
Check, credit card, debit card, nothing. Cash only.
And then she would give you the key to go in there, and then she would every week or two go back and take all the cash receipts and stuff and take it to the owner, which is incredibly unorganized and very liable for money to be just
when we call to rent a room, because that's how we usually do it, because we want to see the process, right? We want to see, okay, well, how does this work? So we called to rent a room. We had to sit there and wait 15 to like 20 minutes before this lady could even show up. Imagine showing up to a motel, wanting to rent a room, something that should be instantaneous, and you're having to wait that amount of time before you actually get the person physically coming to you. It was so awfully ran. And the thing is, they were trying to get a cash price on it, a very high cash price that was just never going to happen. It had been auctioned.
I was going to say, that's how we found out that it was for sale, is because we were driving by to go look at a house, and on the way there, we saw that there was a big sign out there saying up for auction. So the auction,
and it was past the auction date.
We saw that it was expired, so we called and we're like, hey, is it still like potentially for sale? Did the auction go through? And that's when the manager lady was like, yeah, I don't think it's sold, because they would have told me, because obviously I worked.
So so after we saw a couple of the rooms and we saw the massive disrepair, just out of like, what do we see, like 4 rooms? Like, it was barely
4 out of the 16.
Yeah. Like,
and then there was a separate building that was just completely down to stuff.
It was being used for squatters and stuff like that, because again, it wasn't being maintained, it wasn't being properly ran. Derek and I still decided we'll give a generous offer, because if you're giving us time, we'll give you a generous offer. And this was all going to be at a 7% interest rate as well.
7.25.
Yeah, 7.25, and it was going to be an 11-year loan. So basically, after 11 years of us paying $2,500 for this place, roughly, it'd be paid off in full. Great deal for the owners, great deal for us, because we knew what we could do. We've already done it before with our mobile home park. We knew we could do it here, and we knew how to handle it.
The reason we did this is because the owners themselves have only owned this particular motel, because obviously you can look on county records to see when the title transferred. They'd only owned the motel for, I think, 4 or 5 years up to this point, and they paid about $100,000 when they bought it, and now they're just trying to basically triple their money and leave, and it's not even close to being worth that money. Well, we were willing to give them about, at the end of that, was going to be like 300-something thousand. So we were going to give them pretty much triple their money, plus, if they would just give us the time on it. But, I mean, they were open to it for a while until...
So, this is where it all went south. We sat there and we gave them our purchase and sale agreement. Very simple, 2-page agreement. The second page is literally a signature page and addendum section. We just wrote in there a couple of the addendums of what we agreed to. And the guy said, and I quote, okay, I'm going to have my attorney review this. And if it's all good, I'll go ahead and sign it and we can move forward from there. We obviously wanted to close with our attorney, Matt McCord, because, again, we did the mobile home park with him. We can trust him to do this. We know he's going to do a good job for both sides and making sure that everything is good and like it's supposed to be. We don't hear anything for a bit.
I think it was 5 days, because we met with him on a Friday. I don't think we heard anything until Wednesday. And
then our attorney, Matt, got a 14-page purchase and sale agreement, a mortgage and a note, which totaled like 20 plus pages.
Yeah, the note was like 2 or 3 pages. It was very short, but the mortgage was like 19 or more.
Yeah.
The mortgage was insane.
We haven't even signed the purchase and sale. We haven't started like the title search. We haven't done anything. Like, nothing has been done. So he took our purchase and sale
Yeah, the only
and
thing
just
we
threw it out the
negotiated-
window.
The only thing we negotiated out at this point was literally the terms of the sale.
We negotiated the monthly, the down, the total, the interest rate, the loan term amount, when it would be paid off. That's all, like what was staying, what was going. That's all we negotiated. It was very simple, very easy, and it was good to go. So let me tell you, they used an attorney. I've never heard of them until this day, and I think it's for good reason. Their attorney is Sal Galloway.
In Greenville, I believe.
In Greenville. This attorney is the most...
Well, let me clarify. Not exactly necessarily Sal Galloway. That's just the brand or the branch.
Oh, yeah.
The specific attorney that we were using or had to deal with was...
I believe his name was Joey.
Maxwell. Joey Maxwell.
Yep. Joey
He
Maxwell.
is the attorney. So I don't know about Sal Galloway as a
I
whole.
don't actually. That is fair. I am still mad at it, and we'll explain why.
Yeah.
But I'm still mad at the Galloway organization as a whole because of just their lack of care. But Joey stacked the deal.
Yeah.
And
Joey freaking Maxwell is the one that we had to particularly deal with and get nowhere with.
And here's the thing that annoyed us, right? Okay, we haven't even signed the purchase and sale. We haven't started the title work process. We haven't started anything. This guy did a classic attorney move of screwing your client. And here's what I mean by this. Their clients came to him and offered him a piece of paper that they asked him to review. He then said, no, let me draft it. I'll only charge you this much. So here's what an attorney does when they draft it. The second that that paperwork is drafted, they now are owed money because they basically created a document for you. Here's the little secret. He didn't create that document. He just copied and pasted it from like a little wheelhouse, because again, we do the same thing. It's called fill and sign contracts. He just copied this agreement and sent it over, and is then probably going to charge the client anywhere between $500 to $2,000 for doing that. And just basically changed out some of the numbers and some of the lettering and sent it over.
How we know he did that? Because the very first contract he sent was literally a previous agreement they had for a Red Roof Inn, and had a whole series of mistakes all riddled throughout.
It literally was saying that we would be inheriting like certain liabilities from the Red Roof Inn, like a corporation or LLC or whatever
had
else.
He as a personal guarantor, we never agreed to that.
Had him as a personal guarantor and stuff like that. We're like, no.
To clarify a personal guarantor, that's, for example, if you have it under your business name and your business defaults so it can't pay the bill, that the people that you're buying it from, they can now sue you because you're personally guaranteeing it. So they can sue you personally, meaning if I have my own personal home, like my own family and kids and a house and whatnot, and car, and the business falls through, I now lose my own home, my car, and whatever else because they now can sue for that damage.
He said Derek was a personal guarantor. He set all this up, and we're like, whoa. We were like, this is too much, too quick, way too complicated. We are not agreeing to like these agreements. We're not taking on any of the liabilities. We're not doing any of this. We need to sit down. We need to discuss this and like go back to the drawing board. So we submit back like something more simple. Like, why can't we be more simple about this or whatever else? We don't hear anything from the attorney for like
3 weeks because it was over Christmas break.
Yeah, we don't hear anything from the attorney for 3 weeks. After we're like, whoa, no, this is way too much, way too fast. Then when he responds back, classic. He sits there and he starts trying to bully us. So again, our first email was him sending all this BS that he's now charging his client for, which, by the way, Matt McCord would have done all of that. The closing costs would have been split between both of us, and he would have taken care of all of it for cheaper than what this guy is now going to be charging his client. But he finally sends us something back, and here's what he had to say. He literally sat there and was like, no, my client wants to close by January, which we did not agree to. We agreed March 15-ish, if not before the end of March. He's like, my client wants to close in January. We need to get this done. He doesn't want to lose his backup offers, blah, blah, blah. Like, we're going to demand a personal guarantee and so on and so forth. He started spewing all this, honestly, shit out of his mouth, which was nothing that we discussed with the client.
We didn't even bring any of this stuff up except for the due date, which was obviously March.
Yeah.
We never talked about having to be personally guarantor. He didn't even have any backup offers. That's why we were literally the only offer. And then, because remember, they tried to auction it, didn't get anywhere. And then there was some other lie he said in that email. I can't remember the other one.
Yeah, he sat there and he spewed all these lies. And Derek just literally fired back and I'd be like, okay, tell your client to go take his back off offers. No, we agreed to this. What you are demanding is physically impossible. There's no way we could close in this time because we haven't even agreed on a purchase and sale because you sent us such a huge one with so many, that's riddled with mistakes all over the place. And he didn't even, the funny thing is, we sent this thing like asking all these questions. He addressed none of it.
My favorite
He
part,
addressed nothing.
every time we would respond to them in a message, I would send like a legitimate like section of, we're talking like a novel half the time. Like I would always be, I'm very detailed in my emails. I go through a lot of words explaining what exactly is the problem and what we need to do.
Like I'll give you an example. So let's say like there's section 3, right? Talking about liabilities, and then there's section 1 under section 3. So Derek would literally put like 3.1. We're not taking on any liabilities. What are you talking about? Are there any liabilities that we need to be aware of? Completely ignores it. And Derek would go through the entire email, pointing out each individual section that him and I would have a problem with.
This guy was kind of like those really bad relationship texts where you send out a paragraph and they respond with K.
Actually, yeah.
That's literally what this guy did.
So
we would respond with all these issues that we're having, and then he would completely disregard them and just say, here's what we're doing.
Yep. And so I would like to say that this went on for a while, but the problem is from December 9th, basically, like, he must have got this paperwork like 2 days. So we'll be generous. We'll say starting December 12th, we'll be real generous. From December 12th, from the moment he was involved, all the way till the middle of February, we only had a grand total
5
of
emails.
5 email communications.
And I want to clarify.
Grand total in the course of that entire time.
2 of them were in the last week.
Yeah.
So if you take out the last week, that means we received 3 in 9 weeks.
Now,
and 1 was the very first one that started.
Now, obviously, the thing is that let me explain a couple things legality-wise. First of all, the purchase and sale he was using was retarded. He's actually dumb if he uses this regularly. It is more like complicated and unnecessary than a realtor's agreement. In fact, we pulled up the standard South Carolina realtor's
before
agreement.
you get into that, so the reason we did this is because at one point it became a pissing match with him, I guess, because I guess he just got offended because I was calling him out saying that he was obviously incapable of doing his job if we're going to continue to do this. And so then he said in a response, and like basically a one-word response to my novel, was, we have to do it these specific terms. This is standard. Yes,
he used the word standard.
And Vlad and I were like, we've been in so many transactions in our lives. We've never heard that there is standard. There's the law and there's creativity. And creativity plays within the law. There is no such thing as standard.
If something is standard, that means it is law.
Yes.
That is standard. Everything else is up for negotiation. That's why the levels of law, contract is the lowest level of law, but it is still law. It is a law that you and another party create for yourselves and adhere to. That is a contract. You have created a law when you and another party sign a contract together. It has to follow all the laws above it. So county, state, federal, it has to follow all those other laws. It can't go against anything that those laws say. Those are the standards, but it is law nonetheless. And that sent me off the handles because that's when we sent him the realtor agreement. Like, here's a realtor's purchase and sale agreement. This actually is a standard. Every single person in the state of South Carolina.
This is the South Carolina realtor agreement. This is the purchase and sale for them.
Every single realtor in the state of South Carolina uses this document. You know how many pages it is? 6.
Yeah.
It is 6 pages. His purchase and sale was like 14.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, this, you want to argue standard? Here's standard. What's wrong with this purchase and sale? Every realtor in the state of South Carolina uses it.
The owners even agreed to use that agreement.
The owners actually agreed to use it.
Because they were just like, yeah, we'll just move forward with it. It's fine.
We then also got so mad because his mortgage note was egregious. Let me give you some ideas, and I'll try to show it here as well. There's a clause in there, very top of the mortgage basically, that states that whether or not Derek and I are in default or not, at the lender's sole discretion, they can tell us to cease collecting all funds from the property. whether we're in default or
to
not.
clarify one more time, as soon as we sign paperwork,
he could literally throw down a piece of paper saying you're not allowed to collect any rent.
Literally, we could be at the closing table. We agree. We sign off. Okay, you have title in your name now. It's going to get filed to the county. Yeah. Okay, you're not allowed to collect rent anymore.
Right then and there.
Right
and the thing is, that is in
the mortgage. It's literally right at the beginning of the mortgage.
Standard. Then he had another clause in there where he had a receiver. So if you don't know what a receiver is, the only person you should ever sign off on with a receiver clause is a hard money lending institution, because the thing is, they always put that in there. What a receiver is that basically, if you default in any way, you could lapse your insurance, you could not pay the taxes, you could sit there and you could potentially like have too much damage on the property if that's in your agreement. Any default. It's not just monthly payments. Any default, right? If you default in any way, what they can do is that they can set you up with a receiver that's a appointed person that takes over the property, collects all the money, pays themselves for their work, then pays the owners whatever is left over. It is a default spiral between...
And you have no control over it.
You have no control over it.
Zero.
So like prime example, we could
There was also no remedy to fix it. So once
the
receiver was in place, you can't get the receiver out of it.
Yeah.
There was no remedy.
There was nothing we could do to sit there and fix it.
So the moment you default and the court puts a receiver in there, you better hope somehow by some grace of God and miracle that the receiver is collecting just enough money to cover your debt to the sellers,
which is impossible.
Which is impossible because they have no incentive to do it.
Because the thing is, attorney's fees get paid out first, then the receiver fees get paid out, the court fees get paid out, then it finally goes. So it is impossible.
And then on top of all of that, the stupidest thing is that even when the receiver was in place, they could still foreclose.
Yeah,
remember that?
Oh yeah, there was clauses in there that we waived our right to a foreclosure. So we weren't even allowed to go in court to argue
our
attorney
was like, I've never heard of this. How is that even legal? How do you waive your right to it's literally required by law in order to transfer from one name to another.
And our attorney was very concerned about that because he's like, the thing is, though, is that this is obviously a business investment purchase. This is dealing business to business. And the thing is, businesses aren't protected in the law like average consumers. You could put that in an agreement. So like, let's say I was borrowing money to buy my own house, right? They could put in there that I waive my right to a foreclosure all day long. It would never fly because state and federal law dictate otherwise. So that law supersedes it. But the thing is, business to business, businesses don't have the protection that individuals do. And the thing is, even if you signed off on it as an individual, you still don't get those protections because it's commercial property. You're not supposed to be living there as a resident.
But on top of that, not only did we waive our right to a foreclosure, we also waived our right to a jury trial.
Which is pretty standard. I will say that is pretty standard.
So basically what they were doing is saying, like, and also no, what's the thing when you meet beforehand? Mediation. No.
Oh, yeah, there was no mediation
So
allowed.
basically it was like, we go to a court, they immediately say we're in default, you're screwed, get out of the company, and we get it back. Instantly. Like, it was like a one track, there's no option.
There wasn't an option for us to pay back all the fees,
Nothing.
Attorney's fees, court fees, everything else. I get fully caught up.
The millisecond we default, we go to court, they take back the property. It was written like 6 times throughout this mortgage.
Then there was another one that we had a massive
there was quite a few.
problem
There
with.
was the condemnation, there was the
I was going to get on
insurance.
the insurance one. So listen to this. So they were requiring us to have property insurance on the property at all times, as well as like potentially liability. Okay, whatever. That's fine. That's pretty standard. If the property ever sustained, I think it was more than $50,000 of damage. Okay, so let's say a tree fell, like cut the property in half, right? That $50,000 in damage. So the insurance is now going to pay us out $50,000 plus in damage. Which, by the way, we have to pay for this insurance policy. The lender would be allowed, at their discretion, to, instead of letting us fix the property with that $50,000, the lender could just take the money. So let's say there's $100,000 of damages. The lender could just be like, no.
And it's any dollar above the 50.
Yeah,
so if it was 100, if it was 400, if it was $500,000, they'd be like, well, you got to pay your loan off.
Yep. They just literally, they're in the agreement. They were allowed to just take that money for themselves. And if we didn't give it to them, by the way, we'd be in default. They would be allowed to take that money for themselves, and they would apply it not to our monthly, so not to the $2,500 we pay a month, it would be applied to the note, the total price.
And there was no forbearance period, meaning that once that money got transferred over into the
we had like a 6-month period where we wouldn't have to pay.
So basically,
or
what he's saying is that a tree could fall in half into the motel. We can't run the motel right now because obviously
it's borderline condemned at that point.
And so now we can't make any money off the motel. So now we're having to pay out of pocket for all the other expenses needed for it because we had to pay the insurance to the loan. So say it was $100,000. We had to pay $100,000 to the loan. Okay, we still owe 180 or whatever it is. Okay, or 135, I think. And then we had to now pay out of pocket $100,000 worth of damages to fix the motel so we can get it back up and running, while also still paying the monthly for the remaining 135 at the same rate of $2,500. So basically, out of pocket, we're paying $100,000 plus any other repair costs,
and we still have to maintain insurance on the property.
Still have to maintain insurance,
which
pay taxes.
No insurance will insure that because it's a damaged property.
Exactly.
So we would lose our insurance. Thus, we're in another fucking default spiral.
So
with a receiver being
getting thrown in there and then going straight to court and losing.
We can't win.
It was like landmines.
Win
every single step in that. There was no physical way you could. I can't imagine somebody other than just pure good graces of a seller actually performing on that. Like if the seller was just like, I genuinely don't want to hurt you, then sure, you could probably get away with it.
But you can't trust that in business.
You can't do that.
What is in black and white is what the courts are going to uphold. This attorney sat there and sent us this agreement claiming that was standard. And he said, and I quote, not only for residential, but commercial.
Yep.
First of all, the clauses that he has in there residential-wise are actually illegal.
Literally.
You cannot do that in residential, and I know that for a fact. So Derek and I got so mad about this. We went down to Greenville County, court, pretty much like records and deeds or whatever else. I can't remember what it's called. Register of Deeds. Thank you. We went down to the Register of Deeds after he used the word standard, and we pulled eight mortgages from 6 of which were all different motels that have all had some kind of financing. So there was one that was for $1 million.
No, it was $2.something million.
$2.something million. It was 8 pages.
Yes.
And none of those ridiculous clauses for
There was another
million.
There was another that was like $600,000 and it was 3 pages.
Dude,
we're at 200,000. Why are we playing around with these 19+ page mortgages when we have these other deals that have gone through?
One of the mortgages. I love this. We found the original mortgage for the exact same motel that the previous person had sat there and bought it with.
So just a reminder, so there's us. There's the people we're buying it from. The people they bought it from.
We found
their mortgage from whatever bank they got it from.
Their mortgage was like 7 pages, and we sent it over.
Dude, it was beautiful.
We'll do this right now.
It was so simple. There was one thing that was a little questionable, but 99% of the rest of it, we were ready to just sign paperwork.
We'll sign this. What's wrong with this? This is literally what was on it before. And then we found a mortgage and note for the building that Sal Galloway is literally renting.
Yes.
A mortgage that it was simpler from their own building.
So Sal Galloway's mortgage was like 7 or 8 pages as well versus this dude. So literally the building they're in, their own financing from somebody else, some bank or whatever, was literally giving them a more simplistic mortgage than what they provide to somebody else. That is the definition of hypocrite.
And so we sent all of this because the thing is that what are you going to do? We've provided you 8 mortgages to choose from that we are willing to negotiate on and go with versus your BS hard money loan default spiral cycle mortgage.
And then that's the same email that we went through and broke it all down, didn't it?
No.
Or was that the next email?
That was the next email. So after we sent that, because the thing is, by the way, this was towards the beginning of February that we just dumped this massive email, be like, we need to move forward because the owners have a $5,000 insurance premium coming up at the end of March that they have to pay if they don't get it. The lady that's running the place is threatening to quit if we don't buy it and if we don't work this out soon. And by the way, if she quits, that motel's falling apart.
Let me also clarify some other things with the motel manager lady. So literally when she's saying that she's going to quit, it's not just the fact that she's leaving. She's borderline irreplaceable because she's also been supplying her own like laundry units, so like the washer and dryer.
Mhm.
She's been buying her own materials to run the thing.
Some of
keeping
those
it out of-
fridges and TVs are hers.
Yeah, and not getting reimbursed for it. So we're literally saying that literally, it's not just a regular manager managing the property. No. There is literally nobody else because she was getting paid some disgustingly low price. It was like when we broke it down because
It was under minimum wage.
oh, it was below tip wage. So like if you were a restaurant worker, the only thing that she was getting was the benefit of living in a room that she was being charged like $800 for, but then getting credited. Yeah, she was making like I think what was it like? She was getting paid $800 total.
It was
a month.
something very small. I can't remember exactly.
I think she was getting paid $800 a month. Oh, she was getting charged $600 a month. So she was getting paid $800 and then getting credited $600.
Mm-hmm.
So grand total, she was making $1,400.
And we sent this
Ridiculous.
fat email with all these mortgages, with all like the realtor purchase and sale, with all these examples as a big, honestly, it was a big fuck you. I'll be straight up. It really was, because he used the word standard and then Derek just kept reusing. How about any of these standard agreements? What about all these standard mortgages? How come all these standard mortgages for millions of dollars all look different? Because, there is no standard. Otherwise, it would be law. And we wait. We don't hear anything.
No,
wait.
Actually, I remember exactly what happened. We did hear something. We heard something immediately.
From the owner.
Because he saw that. He was like, oh, there's clearly a problem here. And so he reaches out to us and was like, okay, we'll see if we can work something out.
He literally said, let's schedule out a call. Us, me, you guys, and the attorney. Let's just knock this out. Because the thing is, he knows we're getting closer and closer to that deadline, and we can't meet it if we don't have proper due diligence period. Because we still haven't explored the whole motel. We haven't looked through all the rooms. We still need time to do our work. We need to make sure it's not getting condemned.
He also got his son-in-law involved, too.
Yeah.
So somebody else got involved. So just prior to this, by the way, so not only were we dealing with the manager lady, working with her a little bit, also we were working with, obviously, the sellers, which in this particular case, it was mostly just the I guess you could say the dad in this case, because there was also a daughter involved when we first met with him. And then I also had his wife's contact number. I had to negotiate with her for a little while because he had to go leave to India during the Christmas break. And then there was a son-in-law that got involved. So it wound up becoming 4 total people as the seller, then the attorney, plus the manager, and then us.
So the actual owner, the guy in India, is saying, like, let's set up a conference call. Let's knock this out. We're like, absolutely, we'd love to. He said, let's do it at about 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock. We're like, great. Yep, totally. I wake up early. I'm ready to go. And it's 9:30. Don't hear anything. 11:30. Don't hear anything. Derek reaches out. The attorney's on vacation and didn't bother to tell the client, us, our attorney, anyone. And here's the thing. Every email correspondent that we have sent has not only gone to the owner, our attorney, and their attorney, it has also gone to the paralegal. And at no time did we hear anything.
They specifically requested that we always inform the paralegal as well. And never has the paralegal ever reached out. I don't even know the name. They have never, ever responded to an email, called us, even informed anybody like our own attorney.
And this is where we spread it a little bit further than Joey, because as a paralegal, if you see an email that aggressive, basically calling out your supervisor, because obviously paralegals are below attorneys, you see an email that aggressive calling out your supervisor, why are you not taking it over to somebody else like, hey, this is a problem, we might want to fix this to try to rectify it, because it's in your client's best interest if you give a shit. But they don't. And the reason is, whether or not this deal goes through, they're going to get paid. And
they get paid for the longer they drag it out.
Yep. Because our attorney, Matt, he only gets paid a little bit with the title search, but he only gets paid once it closes.
Yep.
So he has every incentive to make it close and do the best work that he can. These guys are getting, the second that they agree to let them draft the paperwork, they're getting paid.
Yep.
And it just annoyed us so much, because now we're in another week of delays and anything else like that. Then, like he's saying, the son-in-law reached out to us shortly after that, and we explained all our issues with the son-in-law, because like, we've used his attorney and he's been great. I'm like, if you signed any of these agreements where they were used against you, like if you signed that mortgage note, I don't think you understand what you're talking about. He then asked us to please send him a copy to like clarify all our issues. So we literally went through the entire mortgage, highlighted, showed what we would revise, what we're just saying just take out completely, and always explaining ourselves why.
All right, so basically the way we did it is that what we had is in there, like we would highlight in one color what the actual problem was, then follow it up with another color, which was like our thoughts on the problem and concerns with it, and then the following one would be like another color saying like, here's what we recommend as like a replacement to the clause, or if we needed to like adjust it anyway, like here's some of the adjustments we make to it, and that way it was like clear coded like what the concerns were as they requested.
And the thing that was crazy is that we still found the original mortgage note for the motel as it was before, and we told them, hey, if we modify this one clause here, we'll sign this right now. It's great. It's perfect. Here's the thing too. We don't have enough time to go over all the problems in this video that mortgage presented. We haven't even gone over, like, we can't even go over all the problems with the purchase and sale because of how egregious it was. Joey Maxwell is, in my professional opinion, in all my years of real estate, which by the way is 5 years now, in my 50 plus transactions that I've done, the dumbest real estate attorney I have ever dealt with in my life. I have seen incompetence, I have seen lack of effort, I have seen lack of care, I have seen a complete and total fumbling of the closing. But the thing is, every other attorney had one thing that Joey Maxwell doesn't. They at least make an effort to rectify and fix the problem. I don't think I think he must have barely passed the bar, because I don't think he knows how to modify his own fill and sign agreements.
Yep. And to clarify, it's not like that we have very limited experience with attorneys. I've had 9 attorneys, with him being the 9th. And he is bar none.
I'm at 8, by the way. I've gone through 8 different attorneys.
Bar none, he is the worst I've ever had the pleasure of working with or not working.
The Sal Galloway organization as a whole, I'm not going to necessarily condemn them and just bash them as hard, because we only dealt with one attorney. There's supposedly 4 others, potentially. I don't know off their website. Maybe 4 other attorneys that also work there. I am, however, also going to bash his paralegal for doing
literally nothing.
When like the whole deal's clearly falling through, because you know what? They didn't care. They were going to get paid no matter what, so who cares? And this is a prime example of where us as the buyers, them as the seller, were able to come to very fair, mutually agreeable terms. They told us multiple times over this negotiation process, quote, all we care about is that you guys pay. And we're like, we will happily sign off on that. If that's truly all you care about, we have a mortgage that is just 100% about payment and nothing else. That's all you care about. That's all we care about. We'll make sure you get paid. Let us do our thing. You guys don't worry about it. You'll get your check every single month. That was the communication we were having between us and the sellers. And this attorney just fumbled it all. So thank you, Joey, for completely butchering this whole damn deal.
So all in all, to finish it off, basically...
Oh, how it ended. That's right.
The way it ended was pretty much we didn't get a response until we sent that really massive breakdown of everything that was an issue.
We sent our complaints, obviously, with the current mortgage note over to the son-in-law.
Out of nowhere, out of the blue, 2 weeks later, because I had been following up, because I usually give about a week or at least a few days for sure of people time to respond. And I wasn't hearing from anybody, and so I was reaching out to the owner, reaching out to the wife, reaching out to the son-in-law, just reach out to somebody for communication. Reached out to the manager lady, see if she had any update. She hadn't heard anything either. And finally, out of nowhere, out of the blue, not really out of nowhere, I really expected it. I told Vlad I expected it to happen.
Yeah.
And an attorney comes out and was like, yep, seller's backing out of the deal.
They're taking a backup offer and selling
it. Actually, not just yet. They're backing out of the deal. They're willing to sell you the property in cash, but they're only going to knock off $25,000 on the total price. And we're like, that is disgusting. That is literally way more than you've ever been even attempted to be offered at your auction when you were trying to do that. You're nuts. We already know we priced it way too high, but we were willing to do it for time. But anyway, so they gave us a week, and we just responded back with, thanks for your time, thanks for the opportunity. Sucks that Joey Maxwell can't do his job. Wish you guys the best of luck if you ever want to reach back out to us and sell it to us if the new buyer falls through for whatever reason, or if your attorney stumbles and fumbles that one as well, then feel free to reach back out to us. However, understand that our first deal is always our best deal, so we will be renegotiating if that is a potential option given the market and the economy at the time. And so basically we left it on a pretty decent note because obviously we want to leave the door open. We're still open to buying it. However, we are not doing it with Joey Maxwell. So I don't care what happens.
If they come back to us in the future, it's our way or the highway. We might offer them the same deal. We might have to do something less. Because the thing is that right now, Derek and I are desperately seeking something else to put our money in because we already ate the tax fees and everything else like that. So we have to recuperate that money now. Otherwise, it's truly just lost money. So it might be the same deal. It might not be the same deal. But I will say this, and this will be a hard stance. Everything is through Matt McCord. Purchase and sale, mortgage and note, no discussion, no argument. You are literally waiving. Like, I will actually put it in there that they are waiving their right to use another attorney. Matt's representing the entire transaction for both parties. Otherwise, I'm not dealing with it. We have wasted a month. Actually, I'm sorry, 2 months dealing with this.
2.5 months, 10 weeks. And so to clear, and not including November when we were kind of negotiating and inspecting and whatnot before we even put the offer in. So it's really about 3.5 months. So anyways, all in all, the total final thing that we've kind of got out of this is, like we always say to everybody, is basically in the end, the more complicated the process becomes because of too many people being involved or too much in terms of overcomplicating it when it should be simplified. So something as simple as a purchase and sale being turned into this massive asset purchase agreement with way too much fluff in the middle. Stop doing that. You're going to cause problems because now you're effectively just causing more barriers of entry and causing more hiccups, more obstacles, more frustration, more problems, sacking deals, and causing issues in which...
This isn't the first deal that Joey has sat. I refuse to believe that. Because the thing is, any other competent investor that actually reads over and looks over what they're signing and what they're doing would never agree to that mortgage. Ever.
But this is, once again, remember, this isn't just attorneys that do like this, too. Realtors can do this as well. Where realtors will negotiate with other realtors, and then especially with the attorney in the middle. The more people that get involved, the more complicated it becomes. As simple as it can get is if it's just the buyer and the seller, and then obviously somebody...
One attorney to do the transaction.
Makes it simple. Yep. With that being said, that is literally all the frustrations that we had to deal with dealing with that particular deal.
No, that is the tip of the iceberg. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we ran through this.
We could literally spend another 10 hours. Easy. Break down individual points.
We're just giving, because again, the deal's not real, didn't happen, didn't get signed off on. We are explaining what we've been doing from December till now, what we were trying to do. We're moving forward. We're not waiting. We have enough money to go put it somewhere else.
So that's exactly what we're doing. So we put out an ad campaign, and now we're looking for a new deal. With that being said, we're going to wrap up with the budget because we pretty much spent half this video just complaining about an attorney.
By the way, if you're wondering what this picture is, that's what we believe Joey Maxwell looks like. We never saw a picture of him, but if I had to give an artist rendition to like a police officer, if they're investigating the murder of this deal, this is the description that I want to give. Yeah, that guy. That's Joey Maxwell, baby.
With that being said, overall, this was a really, really, really good month because people are finally catching back up like we expected because it's tax time, and every single time that happens, people fall behind because of Christmas, they get their money back in taxes, they catch back up, and they live another year. Happens routinely in real estate. So with that being said, like I said, we've had people catching back up. We have a couple who are going to catch back up because their taxes have been delayed. So with that being said, here's what we got. We got 104 at 485. We got 108 at 1,300, 470 at 116. We got the 500 at 118, 470 at 120. Now, 122 is interesting. So we didn't get anything last month at all because we honestly thought they just didn't want to pay for it after that point. They paid 1 month and we thought they were just done. Well, they reached back out. They caught everything back up, and they paid all of it. Like they caught up January's and paid February's early, so we just waived the late fee because they did it early like that. And so they caught everything up. So now they paid us 1,200 effectively in February. So now they're up in current. And then 124, 450, and then 126 is 470. Now, remember, they were sort of starting to fall behind a little bit, but they're sort of catching up. They still owe us, like, I think October and November, so they're still about 2 months behind, but they're getting the rest of their taxes here soon, so they're going to be catching up with them. 130 is the one we talked about. We just recently got currently on the fence that there's still going to be a thing. They got to get the permit finalized. They're 550. 134 is one of the ones I was telling you that their taxes are delayed, but they owe us 2 months now, January and February. And then 136 is the other one that's on the fence because that was the stepson scenario of 134 going to 136, where it's that temporary arrangement. They're currently at 500. That's potentially refundable. 138 still 0. 946 is 460. 641 Barnwell is 400. Ancient Eagles View is 700, meaning we've gotten money from every single person except 2. I guess you could say 1 really, 1's just a lot. And that grand total comes to $7,955 as a total income for February. Now our expenses are still a little high because we still have some leftover carryover debt because we've been trying to pay payments instead of having to pay the full amounts out, so we can have some money set aside in our bank for either if we were going to close on that motel, for example, or if we're going to buy into something else. So some of our carryover debt is still pretty high on our credit cards. So divvy is $1,180. We still have that leftover Amazon debt from, this is the final payment for that remodel of 108 from 6 months ago. And then we had Apple, which was $1,444, which is the other remaining portion of the debt that was in January and December of the water leak. Then we have the lot rent of usual for Ancient Eagles View, that's $200. Then we have the mortgage for the mobile home park at $1,953, and then this one-time expense, we did pay 1 tax because we got hit pretty hard last year. We didn't want to get hit again. Is the Delaware franchise tax of $450. Last time we had gotten a fee for not paying it on time of $200, which is like 50% of the bill. So we're like, no, we're paying that one. We'll take a 5% hit on the property taxes. We're not taking a 50% hit on this one. So we paid that one. That was $450. So grand total debt is $5,477.45. Meaning in grand total of February, our total net was $2,477.55, which means another profitable month. We have been profitable now, I think, for, I think even with December, I can't quite remember what December was, but I think it's been 4 or 5 straight months, which is fantastic.
Which, by the way, this is
not
also,
including property tax.
This is also why you want to put things on payments and whatnot, not have to pay it all out of pocket at once. Because the thing is, when you're doing these styles of investments and you're doing pretty much like rentals or owner finance or rent to owns, anything in real estate, you're no longer looking at the total amount of money. You need to be looking everything as monthly. Yeah. So how much is this going to cost us monthly? How much is this going to eat into our monthly? How much is this going to cost us for this month? How can we separate it out without costing us more money? Things like that. And this is exactly why we're able to stay profitable across the board and rack up money, because you never know when another deal will pop up. You got to be ready, man. It's like surprise. It just like comes at you.
They really do.
Deal.
And we potentially may have just ran into one yesterday. We're not sure yet. We're still figuring that one out. But
hopefully this one's not going to have an attorney that's going to drag it out for 3 months and then just cancel
it out
and do nothing.
I don't think this is going to be attorney enough. I think this is low ball enough.
You okay with that? Is that cool with you, Joey?
Yeah.
You going to mess up this other deal too? No? Okay, cool, man. Thanks. Right. You enjoy yourself.
So with that being said, obviously the rest of this money is now going towards an investment of some kind. So we'll let you know what those investments are. Like I said, we just put out a big ad campaign where we're putting out like signs everywhere, and then obviously we're just reaching out.
We buy houses, signs, we stop foreclosures, things like that.
So we'll see what happens with that, and then of course we're always looking for deals. So we're scouring the web for anything that pops up, and of course we're reaching out to realtors and whatnot, for people that have been sitting on their properties for too long, and then anybody else is in pre-foreclosure. So we're hitting everything. So with that being said, that's pretty much all I have to say about the budget and the rest of this video, because it was, like I said, mostly just screw Joey Maxwell.
Yeah.
And it's paralegal. Outside of that, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, perfectly good. So
appreciate it. Well, cool. Well, with that being said, we'll see you guys in the next video.
Peace.